Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Board Game Buys. This is where I talk about all of the games that I have acquired over the last 30 days or so. This episode covering May 2024, and I have 8 new games to talk about, plus 2 expansions, or expansions for 2 different games. Now, before I get started on these new games, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's get cracking on the games, and I want to start with Quinn here. So Quinn is a game that was very kindly sent to me that I didn't know anything about this game at all, but I must admit it does have me quite intrigued. So I have read the rules of this one, but I've not played it as of yet. And this is essentially an abstract strategy game that kind of brings back memories of a game called Stratego, if you're familiar with that kind of classic hidden movement style game. Now in this one you have a bunch of these different kind of pieces, and they all move in different ways and have different powers, and the objective is to try and get your light piece to the center of the table, or to try and capture your opponent's light piece. Again, I'm not quite sure how this is going to work in practice, because again I haven't played it yet, but the rules sound interesting. I'm just a little bit concerned about if memorizing all the different pieces will be a bit difficult. We shall see. But the production is lovely, and it's all kind of magnetic, the way that things move on the board. So yeah, I mean, it definitely has piqued my interest, and I'm looking forward to playing this one, hopefully, today. So that is Quinn. I picked up a little game here called Sky Towers. So this is a little tower building game that actually looks a lot like another game called 5 Towers that I have in my collection. This one looks a little bit spicier than that in terms of the take that aspect of the game, because you are essentially trying to build these towers by playing them down as cards in front of you, and you want to come to a total of 21, and if you do that they'll be eligible for scoring at the end of the game. But there is a few things where you can kind of like knock your opponent's towers down, that stuff like that. Nothing terribly brutal, but there is definitely some forced interaction there. Again, I'm not quite sure how this one's going to work. 2 to 4 players, 25 minutes. I do like my small little card games, and this one seems like quite a quirky one from X First Games. So again, hopefully I'll play this one today and we'll be able to share my thoughts soon. On to something that I have talked about already on the channel now. This is the Lost Code. So the Lost Code very narrowly missed out on my last Board Game Buys video, because it was actually part of the Pueblo Kickstarter, but this one came a day after I recorded it. So well, yeah, narrowly missed out there. But this one I've already talked about. I said it's a very enjoyable deduction game that I'm having a lot of fun with at the moment. I did very well on my most recent ranking video, and has actually climbed since then. This is a re-implementation of a game called Think Straight. I believe mechanically it's exactly the same, and the premise of this game is that you're trying to guess the value of these little tokens in front of you that are facing away from you, but you know everybody else's, and by using these cool dials, which will give you points based on how well you can narrow them down. So I will review this one probably as part of a compilation soon, but yeah, loving this one at the moment. It's such a solid deduction game. That is the Lost Code. Onto an older game now. We picked up a copy of Lutes. So this one is a little bidding game, as you're using these preset bids in your hand to acquire cards. The cards will score you points based on different criteria. So a very simple bidding, simultaneous selection, set collection style game. That, it must admit, it does feel pretty standard. I'm not sure, again, I won't do a full designated review of this one, but I will certainly cover it as part of a compilation. So that is Lutes. Let's go on to a couple of expansions now then. So I picked up 2 of the new Barrage expansions. So I have the Colorado Connection, which is a new map with some additional things going on here. I've not read the rules of these yet, so I'm not quite sure how they play and how they modify the gameplay, but Barrage is one of my favourite games of all time. And this is the dual map. So this is for a designated 2-player expansion for Barrage, and I don't mind the original maps 2-player with Barrage, but knowing that it's going to be tightened up a little bit might make that more appealing to get it to the table more often at 2 players. So Nice to have some more content for some of my favourite games, and Barrage is certainly that. Other expansions, I've got 2 of the new stuff for Newton, which is one of my favourite Euros, and this and the Barrage stuff was part of a Cranio Creations Kickstarter. So I have new city towers here for the map on the board, as well as a entirely new map. This is the Italy Grand Tour, so I'm sure this one just kind of moves things around a bit. I'm not sure if it adds any new mechanisms. I think it just might move the location of different things, but there might be some new things going on here. I have already got one of the new maps for Newton, which I have tried recently, which is really good, so again, nice to have more content there. I picked up a copy of Seasons. So Seasons has been on my radar for some time now. This is, to my understanding, like an engine building game that uses dice. 60 minutes, that's kind of the sweet spot for me at the moment. And I do actually have the expansion with this as well, because this is actually a pre-owned copy that I picked up with the expansion. I've not read the rules yet. But again, hoping to get this one played soon, probably before the Games Expo if possible. But yeah, I've not quite got around to learning how the game works yet. But I know I've heard mixed things about this one over the years. I know some people really rate it. It seems to be on the kind of second-hand market quite a lot, so maybe that's a bad sign or a bit of a red flag. But I want to try it for myself because it's a nice, bright game, and I do like my engine builders, my tableau builder style games where you're trying to combo things together. So that is Seasons. Again, keeping an open mind about that one. A couple games here that my brother picked up, but this is one that I would have looked at anyway. This is By the Vote. So this is actually quite an obscure game that is very difficult to get a hold of on UK shores, actually. I have previously tried to get this one, but and I spoke to the design team, but they said that the shipping was so much that they couldn't really justify sending me a copy. But this one is a very frantic bidding style game that, again, I've not played it yet, but I am aware about how it works. You're doing these kind of quick auctions and trying to win the influence of the different states to try and get to your certain amount of electoral votes. So, quite a cool little theme there. I like the kind of the way that the cards work, and they show the kind of percentage of the votes that you'll get, and you're kind of stacking them up in a line to try and get to what you need. So again, I like auction games, and this one hopefully it's going to be a good one. 2 to 5 players, which is again a nice sweet spot for me, and only 15 minutes to play. So that is hopefully going to get to the table quite regularly if the game is good. But yeah, that is By the Vote. Also something completely different with Corridor. So this is an abstract strategy game, another one that I've not played yet, where I believe you're trying to get your pieces to your opponent's side of the board, but you're putting up these kind of blockades by the means of these little wooden strips to try and divert your pieces. It has a very cool minimalist look to it. I like the way the game looks, and it has that kind of classic feel. But yeah, so again, I've not played this one yet. I'm not sure from what I've seen about it if it looks that exciting, but maybe that could be misleading, and the game is way better than I think it will be. But yeah, I'm getting more and more into my abstract strategy games, and this one has been around for a while, so hopefully that's for a reason. So that is Corridor. And the final one that I picked up, which I don't have a physical copy of here because I've had it delivered at my parents' house. This is Match of the Century. So this is one of the games that I've had my eye open for, or I've been looking for a long time now. Only just managed to get over here to the UK. Match of the Century is a 2-player only game set on a game of chess, but it's actually a card game, a tug-of-war style card game by the great Paolo Mori. So Paolo Mori is just having hit after hit when it comes to these 2-player only games as of late, and hopefully this one is up to the quality of his existing Caesar and Blitzkrieg. So yeah, hopefully this one's going to be really good. And I think after playing my copy of Match of the Century, I'll probably go into recording my definitive best games of 2023, because this is kind of the last one that I want to get my hands on before I make that list. But that is Match of the Century. So that's it. That is all the games that I have picked up. Some interesting ones here. Games of old, of new, some obscure games like By the Vote, and some more kind of more well-accepted games, some good expansions, and again, these kind of little hidden gems, maybe, like Sky Towers. We shall see. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my other content too. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.